Well, hello and welcome to the Cable Volkswagen 2008 Football Preview Show, powered by the Oklahoman, News OK, and of course, Cable Motors. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman. With me today, our beat writer for OU football, Jake Trotter, our editor for OSU football, Ryan Sharp, our Big 12 writer, John Helsley, and our high schools writer, Ryan Aber. They're going to tell you about all the storylines of the season. We're going to break down a few of the bigger storylines, and at the end, we're going to take some questions. But first, let's go with Jake. Jake, why don't you talk about the storylines for the Oklahoma Sooners football team this season?
Well, I think I saw a bowl question on your list, so we'll get to that in a second. But as far as the regular season goes, I think the biggest key is how does the defensive back seven hold up against a schedule that features 5 of the probably top 25 offenses in the country, starting with Cincinnati and obviously Texas, Kansas, and so on, and maybe Missouri in the Big 12 championship. They have to replace 2 linebackers, both cornerbacks, and a safety. And that's going to be the big key is how those new faces respond because they're going to get tested a lot throughout the year.
On the flip side, though, they bring almost everybody back on offense, minus some key running backs, right?
Right. The offense is going to be good. I mean, they essentially bring back 10 starters if you count DeMarco Murray and Jermaine Gresham as starters last year when they were essentially de facto starters. So the offense is going to score a lot of points. They arguably have the best offensive line in the country and the best defensive line in the country, too. So up front, they're going to be very good. We all saw DeMarco Murray last year. He can make a lot of plays. And if Bradford emulates what he did as a freshman and doesn't have a drop-off, he'll have a chance to be a Heisman Trophy contender. Okay, Ryan Sharp,
our Oklahoma State editor. Ryan, hit us with the Oklahoma State storylines, a team coming off 2 straight bowl appearances, which is quite an accomplishment.
It's going to be kind of the same song and dance for OSU as if their defense can stop anybody. We know their offense is going to score points in bunches, but the defense is the key question. They brought in a couple of JUCO guys that should help them out, and a couple of young guys from last year that have kind of switched a couple positions here and there. And Swanson Miller is one of the JUCO guys they brought in that should help them out quite a bit.
Big offensive lineman. How about in the Big 12, John? What do you see as the compelling storyline for the Big 12?
Well, I see 2, really. I see one as being, are we looking at another Missouri-Oklahoma title clash? And I think we very well could be headed towards that. Missouri won't have to play Oklahoma in the regular season. Oklahoma, I think, has to be the favorite in the South. So does it look like those 2 are going to butt heads again? I think very possibly. And another one is it's a great time for quarterbacks in the conference. 7 different quarterbacks threw for as much as 3,000 yards a year ago. 10 teams returned their quarterback. So it should be a great year. I think one of the best years ever, even going back in the old Big 8 and Southwest Conference for quarterbacks in the league.
And the championship game is back in the great city of Kansas City, right?
Yes, it is.
Pack your warm winter wear if you're a Sooner fan, maybe. Ryan Aber, let's talk preps. Jenks, Union, same story.
It's hard not to start there. Jenks and Union have won every Class 6A state title since 1995. So it's they're at the top still, likely going to be the top 2 teams in 6A once again.
And we have, and sort of previewing a question we got coming up, but the best player in the state, there may be something good for the West Side. The best player in the state may be on this side, right?
Yeah, the best player in the state is probably on this side. The only problem is he's not in 6A. He's in a class below that in 5A. But there's a lot of good players in 6A on the west side of the state, but the best teams still reside in the east.
All right, well, let's go back and start with the Sooners. Questions, we're breaking it down. Sam Bradford, quarterback from Putnam City North, maybe one of the guys more featured in the Oklahoman and on News OK than maybe any high school athlete ever. And then he goes to become a freshman quarterback and blows the doors off. The best statistical season, I guess, in college football history for a quarterback. I mean, just all kinds of touchdowns, everything. What can Sam Bradford do for a sophomore encore?
Well, like I said before, the key for him is to not drop off. And he could have actually have a better season and not have the same statistics that he had last year. We saw Colt McCoy at Texas, who set records as a freshman, who had a little bit of a dip in his sophomore season, in part because his supporting cast offensively wasn't as good as the year before. But the key for him is just to show more leadership in the huddle, or the no huddle, as we'll see this fall, and take command of that offense. He did a little bit toward the end of the year, but he can be even more of a leader for that team. And they're looking for more intangibles from Sam than what we saw last year.
You talked about Colt McCoy. There was a toughness that Colt McCoy showed in the huddle last year. He was getting the heck knocked out of him. Of course, we remember what happened to Sam Bradford out in Lubbock. Nothing he could do about that. But are they looking for some of those Colt McCoy intangibles? Is that what you're talking about?
Sure, and I think another key element for Sam this year is to make something out of nothing. You know, he was very good when he had a 3-step drop and had all time to throw, and all the time in the world to throw. He's very good when everybody's working well around him. But what they want to see more of is the play collapses and he scrambles out of the huddle or scrambles out of the pocket and finds someone downfield for a touchdown, or there's a busted play and he shows some savvy and turns it into a positive play. They're looking for more of that, which they could have used against West Virginia because they had so much pressure in the backfield.
You're watching the Cable Volkswagen Football Preview Show on News OK. Question number 2 for Oklahoma. What do we make of this bowl slump? What do fans make of the bowl slump? And that's right, I call it a bowl slump. The Sooners have lost, the last 2 years in the Fiesta Bowl. Before that, their BCS bowl hopes were crushed at the Orange Bowl. The last time they won a BCS bowl, I wasn't even living in Oklahoma at the time, and really not that long ago, but 2002-2003 season, they went out to the Rose Bowl and beat Washington State. We're calling it a bowl slump. What should fans make of it?
Well, like you said before, it's 4 out of the last 5 and 4 straight BCS bowls. I don't think you can link all 4 because it was different players. But I think the last 2 years they've gone out to the Fiesta Bowl, and they've been, to some degree, heavy favorites. A lot of people expected them to dominate Boise State, and that was, I think, a little bit of a fluke game. Anybody who saw the end of it, there was just a lot of crazy plays at the end. West Virginia was another. They'd just come off a real disappointing loss to Pittsburgh. But what people forgot is that West Virginia was 1 win away from making the national championship game. And without Pat White at quarterback, that was a totally different team. And I think OU kind of went into the Fiesta Bowl thinking that they were the superior team and that if they just played normal that they would win, and that wasn't the case. And obviously the same could be said for Boise State. The 2 years before against LSU and USC in the national championship games, I think they got beat by better teams, especially USC. And they made a lot of costly turnovers early, and you can't do that against a team of that caliber. So I think the biggest thing for them is when OU has had its back against the wall. We saw that in the Big 12 championship against Missouri because Missouri was number 1 in the country and had some words to say leading up to it. Against Oklahoma State the past couple of years, when OU's back has been against the wall, they've played as well as any team in the country. And I don't think they've had that same mentality in the bowl games where, nobody's believing in us. We need to go out and prove something. And I think if they take that mentality to a bowl game, they'll win. They're going to be on paper as good as anybody in the nation next year. It's just a matter of them going out, executing, and playing like they're capable of playing.
If you keep losing bowl games, at some point you're going to find your back to the wall, right?
Exactly, and we thought that was going to be the case this year, and they just really didn't show that early on in the game. But that's going to be the key for them is when Bob Stoops motivates that team to play like they're an underdog, as we saw in 2000.
And the Big 12 championship game.
They don't lose. And that's how Bob got the nickname Big Game Bob. So it's just a question of what kind of mentality they're going to bring to a bowl game when they get at that point.
Let's talk about Oklahoma State. Let's talk about what kind of mentality they have this year. Boone Pickens says he wants 9 wins out of the Cowboys this year. Is that reasonable, Ryan?
9 might be a little bit unreasonable. I think if they get to 7 or 8, those guys are going to view it as a pretty good season. They've got a tough run at the end of the season. I think they close out with 3 out of 5 games on the road, and then one of those 5 games is a home game against Oklahoma, who's going to be probably a top 5 team at the end of the year. They've got a key stretch at the beginning of the year. They've got 4 straight home games, A&M, Troy, some games that they should win at home. If they take care of business at home, they should be in good shape too.
That A&M game looms pretty large.
It does. They've never done really well against A&M at home. They've had a couple of overtime thrilling games in Stillwater. But at least they have it at home. They're not going to College Station.
They were thrilled with what Zach Robinson gave him last year at quarterback. He started the Troy game and lost, but after that, one of the most productive quarterbacks in a league with a lot of good quarterbacks. What are they expecting from him this year?
The key for him is to stay healthy. He's one of the only running backs in the Big 12 that runs as much as he does and throws the ball, and they don't have a whole lot of depth behind him. They've got a couple of young guys that are kind of uncertain at this point. One of our colleagues likes to point out that Zach Robinson is one of 2 quarterbacks that threw for as many yards and rushed for as many yards, and the other guy won the Heisman Trophy. So he had a pretty good season nationally, just didn't get a whole lot of recognition.
We're always comparing the starting quarterback at Oklahoma State to some fabulous other quarterback. With Bobby Reed, it was Vince Young. With Zach Robinson, it's now Tim Tebow. I think maybe we ought to lighten up on those guys in the comparisons.
It's the mentality up there. They try to find the shining thing that they've got, and Zach Robinson's going to be the key for them this year.
The key is taking hits, too. You mentioned that. This guy takes as many hits as any quarterback in the league. He is like Tebow in that matter.
Yeah, like I said, he runs the ball just about as much as any quarterback in the country, if not more maybe. The key for him is going to be staying healthy. If he gets hurt, they're in a world of hurt.
Let's go to the Big 12 now, and you're watching the Cable Volkswagen kickoff preview powered by News OK, the Oklahoman, and Cable Volkswagen. John Helsley with us, our Big 12 writer. John, can Chase Daniels get Missouri back to the Big 12 title and beyond?
I think so. I think it might be an easier road for Missouri to get back to the Big 12 title this year, just because they don't have to play Oklahoma in the regular season. They will have to play Texas. I think between
Where's that game?
That game's in Austin, I believe. But I just don't think that's I think they've given their preference. They would rather have Texas than Oklahoma on their schedule. I just do.
Now, I misspoke. I said get back. OU beat them in the Big 12 title game. They got to the final, which was a surprise for Missouri. Now, what Missouri didn't get was to a BCS game because of that law, because of the Kansas game, right?
Absolutely.
And so, what do you see? Is Missouri going to be the other team from the Big 12 in a BCS game this year? Is that what you're thinking?
I really like Missouri in the North. You know, Kansas is going to have a nice squad again, but they really had some big losses to the NFL. Missouri lost a few players as well, but they've got some dynamic players. Jeremy Maclin, who we all saw last year as a freshman, was a great wide receiver for them. I think his role will even expand. Chase Kaufman is back. They lose Martin Rucker, one of their really good tight ends, but Chase Kaufman is back, and he's really good. They love to use their tight end in the offense. They're searching a little bit at running back, but they feel like they've got some candidates there. So, and they have some good players back on defense as well. So I think they are the team to beat in the North.
This is probably the most we've ever talked about Missouri in a football preview. We talked a lot about them in a basketball preview before. So let's talk about what we usually talk about, which is the Red River game. OU, Texas, is that what it's all going to come down to again?
Well, it is in the South, I think. There's a lot of people that want to jump on Texas Tech this year. They've got players back on both sides of the ball. They've got their quarterback, Graham Harrell, is one of the top quarterbacks in the league in the country. Amazing stats every year. They've got the best wide receiver possibly in the country, Michael Crabtree. And so they're going to be very good, but they always have a problem winning big games on the road. That's something they're going to have to prove, I think, that they can go on the road. They're going to have to come to Norman and win a game. So, yeah, I think it does. It comes back to Sooners, Longhorns, Dallas, Cotton Bowl, Red River game.
And Tech's never beaten OU in Norman during the Stoops era. Is that right?
That is correct.
So that's going to be a very difficult one. And that in other words, it's probably going to all come back down to the Red
Absolutely.
River game.
Tech's been tough to handle in Lubbock for the Sooners. They've lost a couple of times out there, lost out there last year when Bradford was hurt. But in Norman, it just seems to be a different story. And that seems to be a stumbling block for Tech anytime they take on the road and try and take on somebody that's really good.
You're watching the Cable Volkswagen football preview show on News OK, powered by the Oklahoman and Cable Volkswagen. Now we're going to talk to our high school writer, Ryan Aber, and we're going to talk about two big prep storylines. The biggest one, we alluded to this, best player in the state, David Oku from Carl Albert, the tailback. Just how good can he be?
He can be as good as any running back we've seen in this area in a long time. He's drawn comparisons to Mike Gaddis. He had some problems staying healthy last year, and they've got some questions at quarterback, but they're switching up the offense. They're going to a spread at Carl Albert, which is something we haven't seen in a while out of the Titans. But if they can do that and throw the ball effectively to open things up for Oku, he can have a monster season.
Now, this is a guy who everybody wants. Who are his college choices right now? Who's he leaning towards?
Well, Auburn was the team that really jumped on him early. Pretty much everybody who's anybody in the country has jumped on him. He's come out and said he's not going to stay in state. He doesn't want to go to OU or OSU. He wants to broaden his horizons a little bit.
There's an interesting story there, isn't it? His mother was a truck driver for a lot of time, and they traveled a lot, and they kind of got out, and that's why he's sort of a rambling man?
Yeah, he wants to explore the country and get to a different part of part of the world, and he thinks that not going to OU or OSU is the best way to do that.
Quite an interesting lad. He works out at Frontier City this summer as a barker, trying to get people to come play the games. He's a talker and a half, and he'll be featured as part of our annual college football and high school football kickoff, our preview that'll run in late August. There'll be a big write-up about him. Dirty jobs, summer jobs is our theme. We're going to focus him out there trying to get you to come play skee ball, right?
Yeah, and anybody who knows him knows that's the perfect job for his personality.
He's got a little bit of sales. Now I'm going to ask you the eternal question in high school football and in 6A. Does the West have any chance? Who is our best hope? Tiny?
The best hope in the West, once again, is Norman North. They do have some questions with their quarterback, Tyler Tettleton. Suffered an ACL tear last year. He's coming back from that, and the reports have been pretty good on him during spring football. They've got Bo Blankenship, a great running back, probably the second best running back in the state. Competition between him and Jeremy Smith for that title.
OU commitment, Jeremy Smith, right, from Tulsa?
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so they've got a really good offense and defense. They've got Bo Traber, a very good linebacker, but I don't think they've quite got the firepower to match Jinx and Union.
Well, listen, that's all for the Cable Volkswagen Football Kit Preview Show on News OK. Look forward to seeing you, and we also look forward to you looking at our work when our football preview comes out in late August. Thanks a lot.